Morning, everyone. I hope you're all fine. So let's give some more minutes for the rest of the participants to join. We'll be starting in 5. Let's just wait a little bit longer. So as we wait, we can be introducing ourselves in the chat. So you introduce yourself, where you're joining in from, and what you expect from this call. So I think we can start. Thank you all for joining in. You are so welcome. We welcome you to the Mjanga AI Challenge, the pre-event workshop. And from this workshop, we are not only going to talk about AI, but we are going to talk about how we can use AI to solve problems in our community. So before we get into everything, I would love to tell you about the people who are behind this hackathon, and that is Mjanga Technology, which is partnering with Featherless AI and Midu. We are going to share more about what the sponsors are going to be offering to the participants and also the winners of the hackathon. So let's get into the roadmap. So today is 21st February. It's the workshop day. You're going to learn what we expect. You're going to know what we expect from you and what you have to do so that you can win the prize and the other packages. And then from today to 9th, we expect that you're going to be working on your projects. And between 9th and 13th March, we expect that you'll be submitting your projects. So on 21st, the winning teams, the 6 best teams will be presenting their projects, and the best 3 teams will be chosen on that day. So you do not have to miss out. You have to just hang in this call and know how to win the prizes. So we have 8 tracks. We have fintech, agri-tech, we have environment, logistics, health, tourism, and education, and then open on innovation. So you're supposed to choose one track and work on it as a team of 2 to 5. You're not supposed to work alone because we are encouraging teamwork and collaboration. So before we get into the hackathon, we would like to hear from one of the people who is representing Mjanga Technology, and we would love to know why Mjanga is organizing such an event, why they are betting on you to solve problems in Africa. So you're welcome, Linda, in case you are on the call. Morning, Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. Are you able to see my, let me see my video? Oh, yeah.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. I'm really sorry I'm late. I had some technical issues.
That's fine. That's okay.
Okay. I hope this is my slot to talk about Mjanga. So good morning, everybody. My name is Linda, and I'm here today to just talk about Mjanga Technology Limited on this eventful day. First of all, I would like to welcome you all for joining on the call. We are very excited for such a great event in the world of technology. And as AI is no longer emerging, it's here to stay. As Mjanga, we are very grateful and glad to be part of such a movement. About Mjanga. So Mjanga Technology is committed to driving Africa's technology transformation by delivering innovative and scalable solutions that enable sustainable growth. Mjanga's vision is to be the epitome of innovative and scalable technology solutions that empower communities in Africa. And then Mjanga's mission is to drive technological transformation across Africa by delivering cutting-edge scalable solutions that enable sustainable growth and empower communities. And then the primary goal of Mjanga technology in an increasingly digital world. So here are our values. We value integrity, we value loyalty, teamwork, respect, compassion, and innovation. And some of the services we offer as Mjanga are business IT solutions, innovative learning, and in this case, e-learning for now. Mjanga does IT consulting in any area. Mjanga also offers hardware maintenance and supply. Mjanga does digital skills training and enhancement of technical support. So this is not all. This is what we could share for now. But if as we continue interacting, you will learn more about what Mjanga thrives in. Mjanga began in 2024. That is when it was founded. And at that time, in the same year, we organized our first hackathon, and it was a success. And from that one, we realized that there's more to be done, and that's how this one came to be, the 2026 hackathon that we are doing today, that we are beginning with today. We then launched our official website in April 2025, then complied fully with all regulations in Uganda, July 2025. And then we launched Afayo, our first mobile app. Afayo is a mobile technology that connects caregivers to patients or vice versa, and reduces the bureaucracy surrounding that and the long queues, and it was launched in September 2025 and then approved by Google and placed on Google Play Store in October 2025 as well. That is not just all, but you'll get to know about Mjanga as we move forward. But for now, that is what we're able to share. So you can access a file app using this QR code. It will be shared during this event. And so going back to our AI Hackathon Challenge, it was built around the following goals. The Hackathon Challenge was built to empower innovators to create AI-driven solutions for everyday problems in Africa. It was also built to develop participants' practical skills in AI, technology, and product design. It was built also to enable community collaboration among students, developers, designers, and professionals. And then also to position Mjanga Technologies as a leader in grassroots AI innovation. And it was also brought up to promote responsible, ethical, and inclusive use of AI. So with that, I would like to welcome you all once again and to thank you for joining on this AI hackathon. We look forward to engaging discussions and new and innovative solutions that will push Africa beyond what we currently know. So thank you so much and have a wonderful time. I would like to hand over back to Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. So in case you have any question, in case the audience has any question, you can please go on and ask her. She has more 5 minutes to answer your questions. So in case you have any questions related to Mjanga or anything else, you can please ask.
Yes, Anthony, you can unmute.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, Anthony, we can hear you.
Okay. My question is, what's the time duration between and also
Anthony, hold on a moment. Could everyone who is unmuted mute, please, so that I can be able to hear Anthony? Okay, please go on.
Okay. My question was, what's the time duration between now and the submission? When it's supposed to be? And also, how many members per team? And also, the next question will be about the amount or rather the price.
Kevin, are you able to hear him properly? Because I'm not.
No, I'm not hearing him. I think he should just type his question in the chat.
Anthony, could you type it in the chat? We were not able to hear because of the background noise.
Okay, I'll just type it.
I did not hear that. I'm really sorry. Okay, type that in the chat and then we shall go to Peter. Peter, you have the floor.
Hello. Sure. Hello, Linda. And hello,
Hello,
Mjanga.
Peter.
Sure.
Hello.
And it's a really inspiring session, and you've quite covered a lot. So I won't ask anything about the presentation. I'd love to know if a recording will be provided so that as we are also free and maybe revising with our team members, we can get to understand more, because I believe all that is covered cannot be understood in under one session. So that was my question for you. And thank you for this. Thank you for the initiative. And I really wish to see Mjanga grow.
Thank you so much, Peter. Kevin, would you like to answer that, please?
Yes, we'll be providing the recording after our call. Yeah, so he'll be able to access it.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions? Thank you, Peter. Any other questions?
So there is a question in the chat, but I think, it says, hi, great presentation. Could you please elaborate more on open innovation and education tracks? I think this was to me, but the open innovation is, it's just giving you a chance to work on any project that you want to work on, as long as you're solving a real problem. And then the education track is solving a problem in education. Yeah, that's it. I hope I've answered you, Jabez. So Anthony was asking that what's the duration of the participation between now and the submission deadline window? And then how many members per team? What is the bounty prizes and awards? So I think I'm also going to answer this because I had talked about it at the beginning. I had talked about the duration. Let me share my screen. Okay. So these are the durations. So today is 21st. So you're supposed to work on your projects between today, or maybe you've already started and that's fine. So you're supposed to work on your projects between today until 9th, but the submission window will be open between 9th and until it will close on 13th. So you'll still have more time to work on your projects, but make sure to submit your projects before 13th, 11:59 p.m. East African time. Yeah. I think I've answered your question. And then how many members per group? We expect you to have between 2 to 5 people in a group. You're not supposed to work alone. So we expect groups of 2 to 5. And then the bounty prizes, we're going to talk about them at the end of the session. So the other question is, how deep should we go in regards to AI, and can we use open source frameworks and tools or proprietary softwares? You're open to use anything open source, but we do not expect you to present a project that you already did or already presented somewhere else, like in another hackathon. So we expect you to start building your hackathons from scratch, or maybe you've started working on them in the previous maybe 2 weeks or one, from the moment when you heard about this hackathon. So we expect new ideas, and you are free to use any open source softwares, frameworks. So I think this, Linda, you'll be answering this. Someone is asking, thank you for the program, please share a bit more about the previous hackathon. Is there a report or writing we could see?
Kevin, I think you could answer that.
About the previous hackathon, and I wasn't. Okay, in a sense that we shall go back to that.
Okay, maybe we shall talk about it later during the event.
All right. Okay, I think that's all. We'll be going on to the next speaker. So we have guest speakers, people not from Mjanga, but they are here to talk about what they have done, how they are working, and this is going to enable you to, for example, the next speaker is going to be, okay. So we're going to tell you how to build solutions that are going to stand out, solutions that are going to work for African people, and solutions that are going to stand out, and this will enable you to win the prize that's on the line. So our first speaker is, excuse me. So our first speaker is Sarah Muwang. She's a UI UX strategist and a storyteller. So one thing that you have to note from this hackathon, to win the hackathon, we have a rubric, something like a rubric. So 45% of the winning score is going to UI UX and storytelling. So we have Sarah as one of our guest speakers, and she is the next one. So I would recommend that you listen to her, because she is a pro in understanding UI UX designing and strategies, and she is so good at storytelling. So we would want to know from Sarah, what secrets does she know, or what secrets does she have, or what secrets she uses to create good UI UXs for AI, and how she does it to be a good storyteller. So you're welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm having a bit of technical issues, so yeah, but as I figure that out, I hope you guys can hear me well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
I can hear you.
Okay, so as I work this through, Like Kevin said, my name is Sarah Muwang. I've been in the product design space for a couple of years or so, and I'm going to be taking you guys through the whole storytelling and how it's very important for the products that you're working on. I had created some slides, but I'll be sharing, I think I'll share them with Kevin at the end of the presentation, maybe so that you guys can backtrack on them. I hope that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, I guess.
All right. Okay. So just a moment. Just a moment. All right. So let's get started. So first things first, what is storytelling? Like if someone tells you like what's storytelling, if anyway, I don't know if this is going to be interactive, so I don't think I have much time, but I'll just like take you guys through. So storytelling is not drama, it's not exaggeration, and it's not marketing. It's very easy to think that, a story has to sound all, like a Nigerian movie or something. No, that's not the point. So storytelling is simply putting your idea into a real human situation. So what does that look like? It answers who is this for, what is happening to them, and why does it matter right now. So as you are building your solutions, it's very important to make sure that the things you're working on or the amazing solutions you have are not just because you're the one having the issue. I mean, it could make sense, but it could be a you issue and not particularly a thing that serves the community. And as far as I'm concerned about how hackathons work, it's very important that you build something that works for everyone else. I hope I've made sense. So without storytelling, your product stays abstract. Like people will just be like, oh, okay, like what's this whole thing about? So it's again storytelling and explanation, not the same thing. With an explanation, I could use an example of like how if someone asks you, how was your day? So when like, how was your day in an explanation, it could be like, oh yeah, it was okay, that's it, right? So with a story, it could be, oh, like I woke up at 10 a.m. I wasn't feeling very okay, this, and that. So that way someone is able to get an insight of how your day actually went. Like that way it's much easier for them to feel like, oh yeah, I understand why she says she has a busy day, she had a busy day, or why she had a good day. Then why storytelling matters in hackathons. Um, this is because judges see many projects solving similar problems. You see, like how we have, let's say, Safe Border, and it solves the problem of transport in Uganda. Like if you want to get a border quickly to take you somewhere without having to negotiate fees with with the border guy within your area, it's like, like that solution is already there. So again, you're not the first, you're most likely not the first to think what you're thinking. And I'm not even discouraging anyone. You're not the first to think what you're thinking. You're not the first to have a crazy solution. But it's very important that even as you present your solution, like you have to, should I say, win the judges with your storytelling in the event that, the judges are not picking on to the whole situation around what you're solving, you might lose some marks. So storytelling helps understand your idea faster. It also helps imagine real people using it. Again, like I've used the example of Safe Border. It could be, you could now, like for Safe Border, you could say, you could put it in the situation of like a work commute, like, oh, I've gotten up, I stay in Nigeria and I want to go to Kampala. How do I get there without, So you have to put the judges in, should I say, in the shoes of the user while using storytelling. Then it also helps to see the urgency of the problem, right? Again, going back to the work commute, like, how lately in Uganda, there's a lot of traffic in like so many areas within, the city and the suburbs of Kampala. So it's like, okay, you're creating a solution. It's very easy to say like, hey man, let me use a border instead of driving or instead of using a taxi because, that way I'll be able to get to work faster. So you put someone in that, like the urgency of getting to work on time is as if it's a problem you're solving. Yeah. Then also it's very important that like this also helps people to remember your solution later. Again, you can, when you win people with your story, it's almost like even when you meet someone, it's one thing to say, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm a designer, you get. But if let's say someone asked me, or like if time allowed, I'm like, oh, you know, I'm a UX designer who did this and this and this and this and this. In the event that at any one point, like if we part ways after that meeting, the person is going to remember what I said because, you know, of how I sold my story to them, of how I got into UI UX design and so on and so forth. So that way they'll be like, in the event that even they are looking for a designer, I could be the first person to come to their head because of how good I told my story. Yeah. So if they can picture it, they can believe it. So storytelling also builds credibility. When you show the moment a user struggles, the context around the problem, the change your product creates, your idea stops sounding theoretical, right? You could say, oh, you know, we're building, let's say, an AI, you know, something for like people in the agricultural sector. Yeah, like, yeah, then what? You know, like, also, how is this person going to use AI? You get, I understand like so many of us are excited about AI, including myself, but it's very important that as you come up with these AI solutions, they're not just fancy to you, they're also very, you know, they make so much sense to the other person. Like they make sense to their struggles. Like I'll give an example of like, say, I think Sunbird AI. So in Uganda, we have a common language we speak, which is Luganda. It's not the national language, but it's the most commonly spoken. And you find that you see with things like ChatGPT, you can text it in English, even Meta AI, even with so many others. But now with Sunbird, they decided, oh, let's come up with something where if I'm speaking Luganda, like the AI can pick up on the Luganda and fix my problem, right? So that's why I'm saying it's very important that, you know, like you put into those considerations of the thing not just being theoretical, but practical. So storytelling makes your solution feel more practical rather than hypothetical. So also, it's not just for pitches. Again, I understand it's very important that you want to impress the judges with your storytelling that you used to do in high school when you are telling movies, when you are telling your friends movies that you watched in the holidays in the dormitory. That's not how it works. I mean, it's a good thing, but again, it only makes more sense when also your solution makes sense, you get. So good storytelling leads to good UX. Now, what is good UX? Of course, there's UI UX. UX is user experience. It's very important to have good UI. I'm an advocate for things that look amazing, things that look beautiful. However, it does not make sense when the user experience is not it. You get. That's why you find that like there are certain apps where it's like, yeah, okay, it's not fancy, but you know, like okay, I can get the job done, right? Like I'll give an example of like I think lately we have a system for parking in, you know, like for paying for parking. And it's really not that fancy, honestly. I mean, it could be fancier than that or look cuter, but it really gets the job done. Like, okay, you just scan the code and put, you know, this is how, okay, your car has been here for this long and you pay, you get. So it's how can I put it? It's more like those little things. It could have been very big of like fast sign up, what and all of that. So also it's very important that as you're building your things, okay, one could have an account. You have to put into consideration all those things because you have to try and make the process as simple as possible, right? If someone starts to find obstacles in your process, that your solution, it starts not to feel like a solution to them. So good UX means a clear starting point, obvious next step, and a short path to value and no unnecessary friction. Imagine you are buying tickets for this hackathon, like let's say, yeah, we are buying tickets and you get to maybe the ticketing platform and they first ask you for your next of kin. Like, what does my next of kin have to do with me attending an AI, you know? So try to find that you reduce the friction, or they ask you for like, let's say, like, or your mom's birth certificate or something like, where are you supposed to get that? So you find that with that kind of friction, I could have exaggerated a little bit, but with that kind of friction, it gets very difficult for you to even want to do that thing because you're like, yet there are other maybe platforms like say Quicket, you know. This is an idea I'm giving to you guys, so you can build on that. I mean, like I said, there's nothing new, but you can always find something to add to, you know. Yeah, like that's why the world is constantly evolving. So you find like with say Quicket, the moment you get there, you just pay. you know. I don't need to have an account. I don't need this. And you find that even when you've been around, that particular platform already picks on to the details you've shared with it before. So you don't have to type again, name, ticket name, Sarah Muwang, because you've been using the platform a little bit, you know, in the past times, it picks up on the past information. So bad UX usually comes from too many features, confusing screens, trying to impress instead of help. So again, make this as simple as possible. It's for your own good. Make it as simple as possible. You could be, even when we're building products like in real life, been working on an HR tool at my workplace, and you find that there's like the basic stuff, and just make sure the basic stuff is really working. Or you find that there's always like that one thing that you can capitalize on. If we said maybe every like every transportation, like for example, like Uber, Safe Border back this side in Uganda, all of them, it's typical that when you maybe order for a border, it will take this amount of time and so on and so forth. But now you find that with Uber particularly, and I know Uber has been in business for a while, you find that with them, it even shows you that the Uber guy is 15 minutes, like 150 meters away, and they'll reach you at this time. You get like all those little details. You could find something and build on that, as opposed to wowing us with so many features and they still do not get considered. Yeah, or they still don't make sense, or they confuse you. Again, you don't have much time to be building. I don't know, but you don't have much time to be doing so much. So I think it's in your best interest that you try to like find something simple and capitalize on that, right? Then so the one UX question that matters in this case is what happens in the first 30 seconds. So if someone opens your product, do they know what it does? When you open Airbnb, do you get the point that, okay, Airbnb is actually for booking, accommodations? Do they know what to do first? Like the users, do they know what success looks like? So of course, for different apps, success looks different, right? For maybe Safe Border, the success looks like getting a border and reaching your destination. For maybe a ticketing app, success looks like, finishing, your checkout and you make payment. For maybe Glovo, it looks like receiving your food, right? So you have to ask yourself all those questions, right? And be like, okay, if Sarah is using this, what does it look like to her? Because when you work that way, you are more likely to provide something that's going to be meaningful to that user. So if the experience is not, if not, like if you don't consider all that, then the experience is not going to be clear. And that's how your solution is not as important as you think it is. And it could be, but it's just because you could have put things, wrong. So where storytelling and UX meet, if storytelling answers, why does this matter? UX answers, how does it actually work? Now, when the two are put together, the product feels real, usable, and necessary. Again, I'll give an example of like Airbnb. So let me combine storytelling and UX in this situation. So storytelling could be like, I have a party this weekend, and let's say I stay at my parents' home, very far away from the city. So, but I'm going to go for the party. The party is going to be on for a while, It might end late. I don't think it will be safe for me to go back to my parents' house. So what happens then? Maybe I should stay at a friend's place, but then my friend is not also around, or maybe they are hosting someone like a family member or a good friend. So that means I cannot be added to their space. So now that there's Airbnb, I'm like, okay, I think I can book a home, right? I can book a home on Airbnb. What's my budget? My budget could be about 100,000 Uganda shillings. Okay. Does that cut it? Yeah, okay. I think I have that much, right? Again, of course, there are so many factors that get into this, but you find that there's always people willing to pay for this as long as it's a solution that makes sense to them. So from there, it's like, yeah, okay, let me go and look through. Since it's just one night, I'm not looking for, so much comfort. I just want somewhere to put my head. So, okay, what does where I want to put my head look like? That looks like, just maybe a 1-bedroom house. Unit with maybe a small kitchen, a microwave, and Wi-Fi. Yeah, and a water heater, So now when I go to the app, So now that's the whole thing. That's what I want when I leave the party and, I want somewhere to sleep. Then the next day I go home. Now with UX, it will be a thing of, because we are putting ourselves in the shoes of the person that wants the home, right? We shall go to the app and be like, yeah, okay. If Sarah comes onto the app and she's looking for somewhere to stay, let's say she'll search, right? She'll search for particular areas. So the party is within the city, like Kampala, or it's like at Bandali Rise or something. So she'll probably want a place within Bugolobi, right? Or she'll want a place within Chanja because, Chanja is a residential area and so on and so forth. Okay, sounds good, right? So then she'll have a budget, right? So maybe my budget is 100,000 or 150,000 Uganda shillings, please, not Kenya shillings or any other, I have to put that out there. So then I like, yeah, okay. So to make that easier for her, because she'll have a budget on the application, let's put a part where she can adjust and say, I only want homes between 100K and 150K. I don't want to go beyond that. Then also on the same app, let's put, she wants a 1-bedroom or a studio. So let's put out all that 2-bedroom, because even if they're there, they're not going to make sense. She's not going to use them. Then we're like, yeah, okay, sounds good. So now on the home details, what do we want? Again, remember I said I want a heater, right? So again, if you've not interacted with Airbnb, please, it's a very good reference for good UX and storytelling. So be like, yeah, okay, so I'm looking through the home. I'm like, yeah, I think this one, they have a water heater, they have Wi-Fi, they have a microwave, the electricity is already paid and so on. The security, okay, sounds good, right? So how do I pay? Oh, I need to know about the host, because remember, usually when humans are making decisions for some of these things, they are influenced by what they see by others. Again, this applies different for different applications that you're going to build or systems. So in a case like Airbnb, personally, when I'm using Airbnb, I'm like, okay, this is like at 4.7. I want to see, what did they say about the host? Oh, she's so nice. Oh, I go to there and that place was very dirty. The moment I see that, I'm like, you know what, let's try another one. You get, because what are the chances that I'll also experience the same thing? So then from there, I'm like, yeah, okay, let me book the home. So Saturday comes, I tell my parents, hey, mommy, I'm not coming back today. I am going to sleep in Kampala. So problem solved. I have gotten a place, and Airbnb has made some money. At the end of the day, everyone is happy, right? So for example, okay, I've used an example of that. I'd put an example in the slides, but I feel like what I've explained makes a lot more sense, really. So with that, what this means for you guys, like your teams, if you want your solution to stand out, make it easy to understand the user, right? You could have different use cases, or you could have different use cases, but most likely the users are the same, right? So make it easy to understand. If your user is someone who has never used the internet in their life, like, understand them. You get, okay, maybe you're going to buy them into using the internet, but they do not know, right? Or they know a little bit about it, but they still do not know much as you who is building these things. It's very easy for us to get caught up in thinking that, because we know things that other people know them, and now that's where we lose it, right? So understand your person. Your person is probably a farmer somewhere in I don't know, like in Mukono, very far, or somewhere in the east, or wherever, like somewhere far, they don't know much about using a smartphone. So do you understand them? Because that way you'll be able to make something that makes sense to them. Then see the problem at the moment, right? You, again, when you are solving a problem, it's not about you, it's about the person you are creating it for, which is why I mentioned that it's very important to understand the user. You could have something in mind and you're like, no, I don't think this is important, but to them it means a whole lot. So also follow the product journey and experience the value quickly. Like if it's a thing of, like, make it easy for someone to be like, oh, this is making so much sense to me. I am down to use this any day, anytime. Back to the example of safe border. I have used safe border several times because I'm like, I don't need to negotiate with a border guy. You get, like, to me, again, value could be different for different people, which is why I mentioned that we can have different use cases, right? For someone else, like Airbnb could be, I want a house for a house party. For another person, it's I'm visiting Uganda. I'm gonna be around for maybe a week, and so how is that going to go? You get, but make someone experience the value very fast. For like self border, it's like for me, it's a thing of personally, me as me. I hate negotiating with people. Just like, so I usually want to see on self border, okay, is it 10K from here to Kampala? Do I have 10K? Okay, let's go. You get, not these things of the border guy tells you, oh, money, you will do 15,000. What? Then you say, now I don't have it. Then, you're wasting a lot of time. Yet you could order for the border while you're even getting ready. Within 5 minutes or less, it will be in your area. So, this means that people should not just admire the idea, but they should believe in it. You get. So as I conclude, I'll give you guys examples of apps that have really great storytelling and UI UX. There's Spotify. I'm a huge fan of Spotify because I feel it really picks on algorithms so well. Also, I think Spotify, of course, uses AI when coming up with these algorithms and so on and so forth. So again, make sure as you put AI into these things that AI makes sense. Because in this case, now like with Spotify as an example, they solved the problem of recently, okay, not very recently, but for I think about a year or so, they launched Spotify DJ, where it's like, yeah, I don't know what to listen to, but the AI DJ is going to say, Sarah, you've been listening to a lot of maybe J. Cole, or you've been listening to a lot of Lala Tugzin or whoever. So yeah, let's start from there, right? It picks onto your, what's it called? Like your behavior, right? On the app. Same thing with Netflix. When you've watched maybe Lincoln Lawyer, they'll tell you, you can also watch Suits. You will love it. And surely you will love it. You get. So that's value. Then you have another like Airbnb. Yeah, I've used Airbnb. I think I just need like a paid partnership with these guys at this point because I have really spoken about it. Then another one is Google Maps. I think we have all used Google Maps. So it's again very simple. You want to go here, to tell you in 200 meters, turn left, da, 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 those things like, and you even get to learn about the difference. Like, oh, there's this road that connects here. So those are apps that feed into like the whole storytelling thing of Sarah is looking to go to maybe Yam's Cafe today, but she doesn't know how to get there. You get. Then also Duolingo. For people who have used Duolingo before, it's how can I put it? Again, for them, there's a lot that goes into even like motivating you to stay on the app. So again, depends on the kind of project that you are working on. To like, do you want people to stay a lot on the app, or do you want people to just finish the thing and go? Like, say the parking system. I have no reason checking a parking system over and over again, meaning it doesn't have to be an app, right? Because it's a one-time thing. It's not every day that I go somewhere where they park, like where I have to pay for parking, right? But even then, like it's not something that will keep me up at night. But now you see for like an app like Duolingo, they have this thing where they do a streak, almost like Snapchat streaks, where if you miss, Duolingo is going to remind you and be so mad and tell you, by the way, like, are you trying to like break up with me or something? Guys who have used Duolingo before, it's very emotional. And if you haven't, still I highly recommend for just context of you understanding what exactly I'm talking about. So I will end with a quote. Great storytelling is clarity wrapped in experience. Thank you for listening. Happy to take on any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. About Duolingo, they also have this feature whereby, in case you're missing the classes, the icon also changes to some face that shows that surfaced.
Yes.
So one question from Anthony is, from the aspect of UI UX, how do you get measures if the system isn't a web or app or mobile app? Maybe it's an innovation revolving around UI UX, voice agents, or even RPA.
I'm trying to, for the aspect of UI, how do we get to measure the system isn't a web or mobile app? Okay, so again, Okay, first of all, it would be my first time to see someone not to do like an app or like an actual system or whatever in a hackathon. However, I think the most important thing is that whatever you are doing, like it should solve the problem for whoever you're doing it for, you get. So recently someone was involving me in a USSD code kind of thing, and it's pretty much the same thing, like UI UX. I feel like if you can do UI UX, you can actually do like USSD and so on, because you just need to understand how someone thinks, you get. So again, to answer your question, you need to look in on how the things are supposed to flow. In UI UX design, we have what we call user flows. So when you're creating user flows, I think you've seen them before, where it's like, okay, start from here, sign in. If you don't sign in, you can sign up. But if your password you've forgotten, you can go here. When you get to the dashboard, you can see this and this and this and this. If you want to do, so you have to be so big on that process, because if you do not look in on that, your solution doesn't make sense. Almost like how when you're buying you're buying data on like Airtel or MTN. So you'll probably dial a USSD code. There's like using the app option, but you can dial say *160#. And then they tell you, oh, *165 maybe if you want to send money or anything mobile money related. Then they tell you, do you want to send money to this person, or do you want to, like, are you buying airtime for someone else or for yourself? Oh, I'm buying for my friend. Okay, your friend who? Put their number, you get. So also, how do I know the friend I'm sending to? That's when I'll come to your DM and ask you, hey, Anthony, like, what names does your line bring? You get, to make sure that I'm sending the money to you. So all these things, as simple as they look, because it's very easy to overlook them when you've been interacting with them a lot. But if anything goes wrong in that process, like, just imagine we had to send money to people without actually confirming their identities, like confirming that Sarah, you're sending Sarah's number and it's in fact going to bring Sarah's name. It's very possible you'll send to another person because maybe my number maybe ends with 805 and you put 804, or you've put 814 instead of 804, you get. So I would say it's very important that you look in on that, and then you can now come back to this whole whatever you're working around, or it's USSD or voice agents. Those flows are very important as per my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anthony, I believe Sarah has answered your question. So I think we do not have any more questions. Thank you so much, Sarah. Your session has been great. I've really learned a lot from it, and to some extent, I only thought that UI UX only it's so important on apps and websites, but I've learned from a session that even with only UI UX, with only projects that work with USSD, UI UX is still important. The user experience is still important. So thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Let me share with you the slides.
All right. So can you see my screen? Okay. Can you hear me? Can I get a thumbs up to confirm that I'm being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So for the next speaker, I'm getting some challenges, but it's fine. For the next speaker, she is called Leah Gloria, and excuse me, and in case I know developers, you all like developing something that really sounds nice, something that we are so interested in, but sometimes we forget that whatever we are creating, it's going to be used by a user, and the user might choose to use it or just ignore it. So from Gloria's session, we are going to learn how to strategize our products so that people use them and they do not end up being left on shelves somewhere. So she has an experience of over 3 years as a product strategist. Really, I'm so eager to learn a lot from her. So I welcome you, Gloria. You can unmute your mic and share with us.
Okay, hi, just give me a minute.
Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen so that you can share.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yeah, I can see you and hear you.
Okay, awesome. So you've already introduced me. My name is Leah Gloria, and today I'm just going to be shedding some light on why we're building solutions. Rather, how do we build solutions that really resonate with the people that you're building them for? So that looks like, how do you strategize, right? Strategy is a big word we use a lot, but really it's just thinking through, what are you actually solving for? Who are you solving it for? And how are you going to do that in the way that solves and actually delivers what the person with the that you're solving it for needs it for? So let's start with the first part, which is a few questions that you need to ask yourself when you're building something. I usually call this the idea analysis, right? So most of the time when you're building something, you're thinking all these brilliant ideas. You're thinking how you want to solve for X, Y, Z, how you want to build the most intelligent models, the most innovative solutions. But really, there's 3 questions that you need to ask yourself when you're analyzing your idea, which is, who actually needs your idea? So you need to ask yourself, who am I building this for? And then while you ask yourself that, you ask yourself, who will use it? So first question is, who needs it? Then your second question is, who will use it? And then most importantly, who will pay for it? So I've realized that most projects, yeah, they're innovative. Yeah, they seem like they're solving for something that's uniquely beautiful, like grandiose when you think about it. But then you realize that even as you're building it, that's an assumption that you're having, right? You're assuming that, well, this certain people need this thing. And while it's still an assumption, we call that an hypothesis. So hypothesis means that you've not tested it on actual humans, on actual people. You've not asked yourself this question, but most importantly, you've not asked the people that first need it use it or will pay for it. And most of the time, you need to actually ask yourself those questions, but take it a step further and actually find the people that you will then ask these questions for. For example, let me give you an example now, and then we'll go step by step with it. So imagine you're building a machine learning model, and your goal is that it predicts pest outbreaks, it recommends which crops to plant at different seasons, it suggests the optimal planting seasons for said plants, and then at the end of it, it tells you when you plant in X amount of plants or crops or seeds in a certain portion of land, this is your expected yield, right? Now, the three questions that then you'll ask yourself is, does a farmer actually need this? Is this something that a farmer will need? Then take it to the next step and ask yourself, once I build it, yes, the farmer needs it. Then I've determined the farmer actually needs this solution, right? Now, will a farmer actually use it? That's your next question, right? And then the harder question now comes. The tough question is, will they pay for it? Rather, will they see value in the thing that I'm building so that they actually pay some money and invest because they see the value of the thing that I am building, right? Okay, so now we've already asked ourselves these hard questions. Now we go to the next step, right? Because we've said these things that you're assuming that, for this same example, you're assuming that farmers want pest predictions. You're assuming that they actually trust your recommendations, quote unquote, your AI recommendations. You're assuming that these farmers have smartphones, right? And that they can afford to pay for the app or like subscribe to get premium services to actually get these predictions, right? So one way now you form that hypothesis statement, because you need a statement that will then guide the questions you'll go to ask the farmer that is your primary user for the solution that you're building. So for example, in this case, we will say, our hypothesis statement is that we believe that the machine learning model is a tool for smallholder maize farmers, and it will reduce crop loss by 25%, right? So you first have to define what is the goal that it is going to be giving pests, or rather it's a tool to give advisory solutions. And then who is it for? For the farmer. And what is the outcome that's intended, right? It reduces crop loss by 25%. And then you can have as many hypothesis statements depending on the angles you want to take. For example, that statement was saying what we don't want, rather what we want to happen from a negative angle. Like, what I mean is that you're saying it will reduce crop loss by 25%. Alternatively, you can frame it in a way that you say, we believe that this model that offers pest and crop advisory for the smallholder farmer will increase crop yield by X%. Let's use the 25% that we were using. So we believe that the machine learning model that offers pest and crop advisory will increase crop yield by 25%, right? So that's step 2. You've already formulated your hypothesis statement. Now, this is now where it gets a bit more, I'll say challenging, but it's not really challenging, because I like calling challenges opportunities for growing, right? So here is now where you actually now put this hypothesis, these assumptions that you have to test. And that I usually call market and customer analysis. So you go with this hypothesis, with these statements. From this hypothesis or statements, you can generate questions, right? You can generate questions. So these questions look like, you're asking yourself, yeah, I'm building a tool for farmers, but which farmers are these, right? That's question 1. What farmers? What is the actual description of the farmer that I'm looking for? And here's where now you start defining a persona. So this is the user, the model user that is intended to come and implement, rather buy your solution. So you need to define them clearly. What we usually call them, most times you'll hear people say it, this is your early adopter. So your early adopter is not your family member, it's not your friend, it's someone that you don't know, but that actually needs, or rather that you've defined as a person that would use your solution. So early adopter then takes you to think now, like what's it called? You narrow it down a bit more. So for example, you can say, well, I'm creating this tool we'll use an example for this same scenario. We're doing it for James, who's X years old, let's say 35 years old. He has 3 acres of land. He uses WhatsApp. He has a smartphone, uses WhatsApp. He has experienced like army worms in certain seasons, and so there's periods where his yields have gone significantly low. And so now you've clearly defined who it is that you are intending to sell your solution to. Now, the opportunity for growth comes here now, because now you have to find this James. You need to actually, now that you've defined who James is, you need to go out there and find at least 1 or 2 people that fit that description. And that's, I'll say it's fairly easy, but then again, it's not, because in as much as it's easy to say, I've defined James is this farmer, where actually getting the person that fits that exact description might be hard sometimes. But then if they fall within the spectrum of what you're defining, for example, he's a farmer, he has a phone, at least he ticks like 2 or 3 of the attributes that you have defined for your persona, right? Then you can go and ask that person. So now the questions you need to ask them again is, what are your pains, right? So what is the pain that you feel the most intensely? What is the thing that as you're conducting your operations, as you're farming, what is the thing that pains you the most? What is that place that you need a solution for? And then ask them the same question that you had. Would you actually use this solution? Or rather, how would you use it? You know, your assumption was that perhaps you'd create an app, but perhaps this user cannot access internet as easily. And so if it was a WhatsApp chatbot, perhaps it would then resonate better and actually provide usability, like be usable for this persona, right? So there you've conducted your market and customer analysis, right? Now, after those 3 steps, you go back and now internalize your findings, right? So this looks like now what I call problem analysis. So once you have had what the pain points from the users are, had what they'd be willing to buy, how they'd be willing to access your solution, then now you break that into, what then is my problem statement? Because you need a problem statement. Even as you're storytelling, like the previous presenter was mentioning, you need to define and know actually what you're communicating. Like, this is my pains, these are the pain points that I'm solving for, and these are the gains that you would get if you used my solution, right? And so after that problem analysis, or rather the problem statement, when you've clearly defined what problem you're solving for and how you're solving it for, it's safe to say that then you have created a solution that resonates with the users. So basically, it's a 5-step discipline. So number 1, first you do your idea analysis, then you create a persona, and from that persona, step 3, you test your hypothesis. So you do the market and customer analysis. And then after that, you refine your hypothesis by coming up with a problem statement. And thereafter, refine your idea and build your solution, right? Yeah, I think that's it from me. I'm open to take any questions because I see my time is almost up.
Thank you so much, Leah. Anthony, I don't know whether you are in a place where you can unmute your microphone. I think you should unmute and ask her. Okay, so let me read the question. So the question is, since we are forming hypotheses in respect to the hackathon and you enter this market research and the entire business model changes, excuse me, yes, and even DTM strategies change, and DTM strategies change. How safe can we present our market strategy solution? Sorry, our market ready solution with regard to the hackathon period. Okay. Hackathon period is, I think, 2 weeks, like
3
2 weeks
weeks,
from
yeah.
now. They are supposed to start submitting their solutions.
Okay, that's actually a good question because while it would be ideal for you to actually find a user, of which, like I mentioned, it's a hard, not so hard affair, being that if at least you get even one person that fits the criteria of the person or the intended user of your solution, then you need to ask them those questions. Alternatively, there's an easier, faster way perhaps to do it. And even I think it's actually the follow-up to that question where you say, or should we start with research before product development? So perhaps you've already started working on your MVP, like you've started crafting it up. I'd say take a pause where you're at, because perhaps you've not gone so far into the development. So then you can take a pause and do research. So research can be even online. In as much as me, I'm saying you need to find an actual user, sometimes or most times you find that the problem is already something that you have articles online on. It's something that perhaps is in the news. Like I had the previous presenter mentioning how traffic is a challenge right now, right? In Uganda. And so things like that, general knowledge in the news, something that you've heard, something that for sure you have articles or somewhere a citation that you can prove and say, this is where I saw the problem from, and define and justify why it is a problem, right? If you can do that, which is quote unquote then research without going to the actual users and interviewing them, because there's different ways to do research. You can either go to the market or you can look online and find like justifications or problems that are already existing in your communities. That's what I'd say to that. But you do need research for sure. For you to get or ace this part, you need research. Hi, Antoine. Yes, I will say hi to my team. You seem to know us.
Okay, thank you, Leah. So in case any of the participants has any question, you can please just raise up your hand or just unmute and speak. Because we still have more 5 minutes for answering questions.
Yeah, Kevin, I'll share with you like a document with my reference so that you can share with the participants.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think there are no more questions. Let's move on to the next speaker. We're going to be starting in a little bit early for our session, but it's fine. Okay. Straight. So for the next speaker, she's called Susan Otieno. She is a lawyer and researcher. So her session is going to be about, I hope you're hearing, okay. Her session is going to be about ethics and responsible AI. So we've seen cases where founders get even sued because of non-following or of not creating solutions that are ethical to maybe data or AI. It's not ethical AI. So for the next speaker, her session is going to prevent such things from happening. It is going to encourage us, it's going to teach us, she's going to teach us how to create AI solutions that are safe to use and are safe to use in Africa. Yeah, you're welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Kevin. Can you hear me? Just confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's raining in Nairobi, so it's quite cold. I hope everyone is doing good, as I said, and I'll share my screen so that you can see my presentation. Are you able to see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that confirmation. Once again, hello, my name is Susan Otieno. I am a lawyer and I think my work is in creative industries, but I also do research, as you've seen on the screen, on the slide that Kevin showed. And my research is mostly around AI governance and AI ethics. So I look at responsible innovation, mostly from a regulatory policy and regulatory perspective, but more so in trying to answer the question as to, with regard to emerging technologies, what are we building for? Who are we building for? And then how do we go about building? So thank you so much for having me in this session. Yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. So I'm going to be talking about privacy by design and ethics as success, as a secret to success. So I think one of the things that, or some of the things that have come up, especially from Sarah and Leah's presentation, is that there's a need for intention. There's a need for a particular approach towards design. And storytelling is part of design. Of course, user experience is part of design. And at the end of the day, for the product, market success is the goal, right? So how do we look at these? How do we apply a layered approach in the way we design these technologies and these systems that helps us with, I guess, long-term goals, like building trust, user uptake, and the likes. So, sorry. Okay. So the outcomes for my brief 15-minute session are for you to have a better understanding of the privacy by design principles, for us to review the ethics and the ethical considerations in AI development that ideally you would keep in mind, and then to establish the value of applying privacy by design and ethics in AI development. I will make a note, or I'll take this point to remind you or just highlight that I won't be focusing on the laws specifically. I'll be focusing on the values, principles, and best practices behind those laws. So I think the main thing to highlight at this point is that for most countries, there is a constitution. And the constitution lays the groundwork for the legal and regulatory practices that the country will take. Uganda has a constitution, Kenya has a constitution, Tanzania has a constitution, Rwanda, Burundi, they all have constitutions. And in this constitution, it is a kind of the founding document around the laws that are in that country. And in each of these constitutions, there is a right to privacy. And this right to privacy, because of the advancement of the technological advancement with artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, the digital transformation that is happening overall, there has been a need to create laws that will protect users while they're navigating digital spaces. And this is why we focus on privacy when we not just talk about ethics, but we talk about kind of navigating this push and pull between, the business and also society. So privacy by design is a framework. Simply put, it's a framework that integrates data protection into the creation of IT systems, business processes, and products. And this is from the very beginning. Leah in her presentation, I saw some people using Gloria. I'm going to use Leah. In her presentation, she spoke about the life cycle or the beginnings of product design. We have she mentioned she took you through the hypothesis statement, but when you look at the life cycle of an AI system, you have, of course, your hypothesis, and then you validate your hypothesis through either market research or your own, type of research, and then you build, and then you launch, and ideally you're looking for user uptake, and then after that, hopefully it's monetization. So finding people or the audience that will pay for your product. And so in this life cycle, it is important from the beginning to start to understand, and I really appreciate the questions that Leah laid out in terms of understanding the user. Who needs the product, the solution you're creating, who will use it, and who will pay for it. And these are really central questions to also understanding design. And from a privacy perspective, there are principles that kind of highlight this concept of privacy by design, and they're listed there. So being proactive, not reactive. This is anticipating and preventing privacy invasive events before they occur, rather than waiting for them to materialize. Privacy as the default, automatically protecting personal data in IT systems and business practices without requiring user action. Privacy embedded into design, integrating privacy into architecture of systems and business practices, making it a core function. Full functionality, and this is more, the positive sum and not zero-sum situation. So accommodating all legitimate interests, demonstrating that privacy can coexist with security and business goals rather than having to choose between either. We have end-to-end encryption or end-to-end security, and this is full lifecycle protection, where you secure the data from collection to destruction, ensuring comprehensive security measures are in place throughout the entire lifecycle. Visibility and transparency, ensuring stakeholders know that business practices and technology operate according to stated promises, keeping it transparent and independently verifiable. And I'll go back to Leah's hypothesis statement. So ideally, when you are creating, there are certain, they might not be values, but there will be certain markers of your product, right? So we want reliability, you want, all the features that have been integrated to function. There's certain technical measures that you will take to ensure that the experience is seamless. So it's good to understand this from the beginning, and privacy ideally should be one of those factors that you consider as you're developing and as you're going through your validating your hypothesis statement. Another interesting angle to look at is the cultural or societal needs. And Kevin mentioned this at the beginning when she gave an example of, like you have this person who probably has never been on a digital platform, has not interacted with, apps and, kind of the internet the way we understand it. And I know this might sound like an odd example, but when you look at things, for example, in Africa, in different countries, there's a very huge rural to urban divide. So in Kenya, for example, we have upwards of 55 to 60 million in terms of population, and in Nairobi it's 5 million. So that means the peri-urban to the rural areas, there's a bigger population. And we know that, of course, from access to electricity, internet, all those things, it's varied. And so you are likely to interact with people who who don't know how to use these technologies or these apps. And so how does that inform your design? And Leah also gave an example of farming. Farmers are not in urban areas, they are in rural areas. So, it's important to look at those dynamics and the nuance around creating solutions, specifically in Africa, and how you are able to integrate that into design. And this again follows with privacy. And then finally, we have respecting the user, so user-centric. And this, I believe I've touched on as I went through the list of principles, but being user-centric just means prioritizing the individual's interest by offering strong privacy defaults, proper notice, and user-friendly options. Something that we're seeing now, especially with data protection laws and the GDPR, general data protection regulations in the European Union, is that there's an opt-in option as opposed to an opt-out. So what that means is you need to engage the user and acquire their consent. So informed consent is quite crucial. And this is from a compliance perspective, but also from a trust perspective. So how are you thinking around getting these permissions? And are you interacting or creating features or using your UI, UX to interface with the user and educate them on how to navigate the platform if they have a complaint, how to navigate the platform if they'd like to understand, the privacy policy or the cookie policy, or just get a better understanding of how the platform works. And these are the terms and conditions. But these are the documents, the policies that will interface with the user, that are public facing, that builds trust, that shows them that, okay, this product or this solution sees me, and I'm able to navigate it in a way that makes sense as a user. So I think the bigger conversation around ethics is, how do you apply that? We have these principles, we have best practices, but how do you apply it as you're creating solutions? And of course, there's different situations. You have, like software engineers and companies. Of course, they'll go with the company's perspective or approach. You could be an independent developer, and you can also develop your own practices around ethical AI development. And so ethics really refers to principles, guidelines, and practices that are aimed at preventing harm, mitigating bias, protecting user privacy, and ensuring AI systems respect human rights and align with societal values through their life cycle. So remember, on the other side of this product, on the other side of this solution is a human being. And the system does not understand the context of humanity. It understands instructions. So as the developer, it is your duty to mitigate that gap. And you do that through design. You do that through understanding and establishing your own practice, your own principles, your own kind of framework, or your own way of developing that integrates these ideals. So I've listed, and you can read the principles. They're quite similar to the privacy by design principles, and then practices such as conducting regular audits, deploying advanced encryption techniques, data minimization, consent and transparency, access and control. And this is, of course, limiting or kind of restricting who has access and control to various systems, etc. We also have storage of data and things like that. And then anonymization and de-identification, of course. So we'll get into ethical considerations. So why should we be considering ethics as why should you consider ethics as you're developing these systems? Something again that I'll go back to Leah's example is we understand that in the global AI conversation, Africa was initially seen as a consumer. We were not initially building these systems. And what that does immediately from a representation point of view, it means that we are not like these systems do not see us. And so from a design perspective, it means it is not able to meet our needs, whether it is from privacy or user experience, etc. And I think there are really great examples that are out there. For example, when you go to the loo and then you wash your hands and you're going to the blower, and like in America, it wouldn't recognize African hands, it would recognize white people's hands. And that's part of the issue around bias, and also around not being seen by these systems, because the data that is used to train them does not represent Africans or Black people. And there are a number of other examples in this vein. And so considering ethics is more about kind of just creating a space for the user. And we also understand that users are not monolithic. A user in Dakar and a user in Nairobi might be quite different. A user in a rural area and a user in an urban area might be different. So AI development is really an opportunity to not just create a solution, but create an experience that will give agency, build trust, and ultimately, lead to market success. And so looking at making these ethical considerations really is about kind of putting yourself in a better position long term in terms of the solutions that you're building. And so these are some of the considerations that are, of course, good to be made. Building trust and adoption, mitigating risk and bias, regulatory compliance, of course, given the development, kind of gradual development of data protection laws across the world, and in Africa. I think in East Africa, Uganda has a data protection law, Kenya has a data protection law, Tanzania has a data protection law, Ethiopia has a data protection law. I think there's only about 2 countries in the EAC that in the East African community that do not have data protection laws. I think that would be Sudan and DRC. But we see that across Africa, there is a push to have data protection laws, to have regulation around artificial intelligence, around the development and the deployment of artificial intelligence. And so these laws will continue to be made and be passed. These others are the General Data Protection Regulation of the EU, and then the CCPA is the Californian Consumer Protection Act. And given the reach of these systems, they are not localized geographically. What that means is if you have created an AI system or you're using a digital platform, the data that is being collected on that platform might be, stored in a server that is in Germany. The logistics and the infrastructure that goes into these systems is quite broad and global. And so it is important to look at the respective data protection laws or privacy laws, just so that you ensure, whether it's an e-commerce platform or whatever it is, whatever the solution or product is, that you're mindful of any compliance that is required. Then we have, of course, enhanced data security, long-term reliability. So all these things allow for you to, take this layered approach and transform your AI development from a technical pursuit to a responsible user-centric process. And I think finally, as I also reflect on this conversation, it's really about the duty of care and building trust. Again, you're dealing with humans. At the end of this, the user is a human being. We have, of course, AI agents, and that's a whole other conversation. But the user is a human being, and so it's important to not just from an analytical point of view understand them, but also from I guess also maybe to say to understand how to design for the human is really important, because the human has rights, right? As I've said in the beginning, they have a right to privacy, as is enshrined in the Constitution, and further in data protection acts and various legislation across the legal instruments that are available, statutory and regulatory instruments that are available in the country. So while you're developing a solution, you're also kind of touching on these aspects, and you have to ensure that your design reflects that. And so privacy by design and ethics together, they allow you to meet the user and also create an experience that facilitates success. It's about fostering user trust, reducing risk, and improving compliance. And it also helps you be transparent and build sustainable AI systems. I think we're also seeing the rapidness with which these systems are being built, the rapidness with which, the data is being collected without permission, without consent. I will use a final reference. I think it was, Sarah spoke about value, and I think Leah also mentioned it. But remember, if you're looking for someone to pay, ideally, or to, kind of the monetization aspect, ideally, the money is what you pay with, and the value is what you feel. So you're building a solution, but you're also creating an experience. And the investment that you make into that experience will directly determine the success of whatever product or solution you're creating. So always keep that in mind. And I believe that's the last one. Yes. Thank you so much for your time. And I believe we're moving into the Q&A, a short Q&A. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Right, thank you so much, Susan. Anthony is asking a question. I wish you could just unmute and ask all these questions, because we'd want to hear your voice, because we've been so active in this session. Anthony, can you please unmute in case you can?
So I'll just read out. Let me, I don't know if there are two. Okay. So Anthony asks, when we talk about privacy by design, assuming in my business model strategy, I would like to license customer data in my partnerships. Do we anonymize our data, especially in matters of medical systems? So I'll respond to that question first. Thank you for your question, Anthony. Under data protection laws, generally there is a distinction between personal data, which is the user's data, and sensitive data. So there's a specific category of sensitive data that requires a higher threshold in terms of the either technical measures that you will take, or the organizational measures that you will take to acquire consent, storage, process, etc. So medical data is considered to be sensitive data. And so, of course, there's a higher threshold to the measures that you will be required to take to ensure that that data is secure. And so consent, I think, is one of the things that would become important. And then also in terms of anonymization. So these are the technical measures that you will take. And yes, it is important to kind of take a layered approach, but also identify the specific measures that you maybe are within your capacity to deploy as you're engaging with these either data sets or, kind of insights that you're looking to derive from that data. So yes, to anonymization, and also note that because it's medical, I'm guessing a medical system means you'll be dealing with medical data. There's a higher threshold, which might require you to use multiple kind of levels of either, de-identification, anonymization, and, and the like. After that, also, when it comes to storage, is it safe to have cloud trusted architectures or locally hosted storage of the data? Also, I'm assuming an entire AI for my solution. Let's say it's just an LLM and I have to pass in user data for processing. Worst case scenario, the LLM hallucinates and prescribes wrong diagnosis. Who's to take blame? The company or AI? Finally, do you fit your product to different data protection laws for cross-border users, or do we use international laws? From that question, I see there's an issue of liability if like an LLM hallucinates, and then also what laws to use, whether local, regional, or international. So in terms of liability, the liability is broken down. It is not on one party particularly. Ideally, most of the liability will fall on the company, but depending on the level of the situation or the level of the breach or the level of harm, it could also go to the developer or because the dynamics are usually quite complicated and complex, but I would say mainly it would go to the company, because ideally the company takes on takes on the obligation to ensure a certain level of safety. And so when there is harm, the company would be the first to kind of be held liable. But depending on the dynamics and the measures that were taken to ideally, do regular audits, or, kind of the technical measures or the monitoring of that system, ideally you should be doing that to identify that, oh, there's a problem here, there's a problem here. So depending on the level of harm or, kind of maybe, I don't want to say recklessness, but depending on the organizational measures that have been taken, it could also come down to particular individuals, but mostly it would fall on the company. Liability would fall on the company. So for the laws, the first point is your state laws, the country's laws. So what are the local laws on data protection? And then what are the regional laws? And then what are the international laws? The reason we look at international laws is because, as I said, you might be using a platform, but the data is being stored internationally. So you need to consider that when you're navigating. Secondly, it depends on, who you're using. If you're using AWS, it depends on what service you're using. Ideally, there's a push for localization and for data localization across Africa, but because of the infrastructure, you would find that you're using services that are not local, and so then you have to start to look at what are their laws. What did they say about compliance and how to kind of situate yourself as a company while you're kind of providing a solution and interacting with the public and users, etc. Okay, yeah. So I think I've responded to all of them. I don't see any other question. Yeah, I'll hand it over back to you, Kevin.
Great, thank you so much, Susan. This is a great topic, and it's something that we have to learn from. I know tech people normally do not want to get into the reading the laws, the ethics, and everything to follow. Sometimes they feel like maybe it's someone else's job, but it is also our job, because everything falls back to us. So thank you so much for sparing your time to talk to us, Susan. Our next speaker, let me share my screen. Let's move on to the next speaker. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay. So our next speaker is Shakiran Nanombi. She's a software developer and she is known. I think in case you've been attending hackathons events in Uganda, you must be knowing her. She is a co-captain of the AWS Student Cloud Club and the lead of GDG on campus. She is so passionate. I checked her portfolio, and I would just advise all of you to just go and check it there and check it out, because she does a lot of things and you can't believe it that she is still at campus. So she is an inspiration to most of us, to most of the participants, because most of the participants are students, and I feel like it's an aspiration that you can also be that good software developer even when you're at campus. You can also be a good leader. You can also be an ambassador of AWS when you're still at campus. Yeah, you're welcome, Shakiran. You can unmute your mic and yeah.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let me just turn on my video. Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Allow me to share my screen. Since they have introduced me, I won't go into that. So window present. I prepared a simple slide deck for this, and it's on Canvas, so I'll be able to share it with the team. Okay. Can you all see the screen? Yeah, so my session is going to be a bit technical, though we are not going to code. I'm going to talk about AWS, what AWS offers for prototyping, and some other platforms that you can use. So AWS is a cloud platform. For those who have a little bit of knowledge in cloud computing, you can put your products on the web, and then you have to host them on the cloud for them to be visible on the web. So I'm going to start with a little teaser. For those you're going to submit your projects, but how are you going to submit them? Are you going to submit them as a local host? Are they going to link? Are you going to tell your judges, this is the link to my product, and then you're going to give them localhost 800? Would that be visible? Then what happens if your laptop dies? If on the day of presentation your laptop dies and no one can run the project from GitHub or even on your VS, what are you going to tell the judges? So for this, to be able to work with all these challenges, you have to host your project on the cloud. So what happens when you host your project on the cloud? When you host your project on the cloud, you can either direct it to a domain name or that specific hosting service that you've chosen. Now, for example, AWS, it will give you a default domain name for your application. So since it's a prototype, you can stick to that. But now, for most of us in this hackathon, some of our projects end up becoming actual startups. So if you want to protect your product very early at early stages, you make sure you bought a domain even before you like pitch your product to anyone. Make sure at least you've protected your domain name, so that when someone hears your project and then they want to steal it, or even they want to steal everything, like how you've described it and even your name, you've already protected it, so they don't have to take it. So I'd like to say that I appreciate how Kevin arranged this. Actually, we started from storytelling, then we went to project ideation from Leila. She shared about project. Then we have now gone to the ethical part. As developers, we like to go straight into the code. Then later, when you reach in the middle, you realize that, oh wow, I should have first stopped and planned how I want my project to go. So when you're prototyping, it's very important, especially in hackathons, you have to have a plan. These days we have AI, we have code generators, we have Codex, Curo, Casa. These things already generate the code. Now, for you as a developer, does this mean that our jobs are going to end? Of course not. Just our roles are going to change. We are not going to just be software developers, we are going to be software architectures. So to be a good software architecture, to be a good software architect, you have to know the background of your project. You have to know what problem am I solving, like how the previous speakers have been saying. What are the laws that are going to govern this problem? Which client is it serving? What user stories am I going to arrange for this project? What user scenarios do I have for my users? For example, if a user comes to my prototype, what is the first thing they are supposed to do? What is the first action that my page is going to direct them to? What are the first things that are going to capture their eyes? So when you plan all that, it becomes easier. Even in the programming, you end up saving a whole month of programming when you've planned well. So okay. So still sticking to AWS. So AWS offers a free tier for any new user, and then this free tier lasts for 12 months. So this free tier includes $100 credits. So in this $100 credits, you can use various services like E2C. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with AWS, but I'll share links in the slide deck so that you can go further and learn more about these services. So AWS has over 200 services, but in this free tier, they don't include all of them. And services that are specifically targeting AI, since I won't say it's still new because it has been there for like over 5 years, like this generative AI. So these services that they offer targeting your specific prototypes are not free. So in this presentation, I'm supposed to focus on AWS, but later as we go on, I'm going to offer you free option. I'm going to introduce you to free options that you can use for your prototypes that won't cost you anything. AWS is good, but if you can afford to pay for it, because when the credits get done and you didn't delete that instance or you didn't set up a billing alert, you're going to be charged. And then for you to have an account, you need a verified card that at least has $2 on it. So as me, I'm a student. Most students don't have these things. They don't have cards, or they may have the card, but it's just pocket money. Pocket money comes, you take it off. Now it's empty. We don't keep money on our cards most of the times. So for AWS, the credits it offers you could only cater to just test out their services to see how they work and see if they'll be able to work for your product. So with that said, I would like to proceed to the AI prototype stack. So like our previous speakers have shared, as you think about the user you plan, like I've talked about, then after you're going to plan how you want your prototype to look like, what kind of APIs are you going to connect to? Are you going to train your own models? Are you going to go into collecting data sets, then fine-tuning a model, or you're going to just connect to an API? And if you connect to an API, how are you going to communicate to it? Then after that, does your application have storage? Most AIs now use vector databases that have embeddings and all that. So is your app going to have RAG in it? So what kind of storage are you going to have in your application? So you have to think about all that even before you start coding, because coding is really sharp. You can even do it in 1 week. But when you've not structured well your plan, you're going to reach in the middle and then you're going to clash. Yes. So what I prepared a small demo. I'm going to just share a link to the repository on GitHub. It's not yet ready. I encountered some errors, so I didn't deploy it yet. But I'm going to share a link to the GitHub repo. Later, you can fork it and see how I structured the code for that project. So it's going to be a recipe AI. We are going to use React for our front end. Then we're going to have Fast API back end. Fast API is very famous for AI prototypes. Why? Because for Fast API, it's easy for you to test the backend even before you have the front end. It gives you a docs view, so you can go and test your APIs. Is my API working? Is it calling very well? Is it calling very well what it's supposed to call? Is it communicating well? You can test it before even you have the front end so that you know my back end is set, it's working. Now I can go in to design the user interface without worrying about the back end. Yeah. So the other options that I said that I'm going to introduce to you to, for apart from AWS, there is Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is also a source for many datasets. If you're out there, you're trying to train your model, you can get datasets from Hugging Face. Also, it offers free models like Llama. Llama is a free model. It's very good for prototyping. So you can get the Hugging Face access token. Then through that access token, you can connect to these models and use them. Just that they have a max, they have credit limit, which is daily, which makes it even favorable for prototyping because you know that the credits are going to renew the next day for you to continue testing your product. So yeah, it has other models there. It has also DeepSeek. It has OpenAI. Those GPTs for OpenAI that are free for testing, especially if they're giving out their model for testing for people to test it out before they launch it. They put it on Hugging Face. So yes. So PyCon is a vector embedding. Remember when I talked about databases, there is one for storage, there were the vector databases. So vector databases have embeddings. What are embeddings? So there is something called RAG, augmented something. Yes, it's called RAG. It gives AI the power to reason from a knowledge base. So what's a knowledge base? Let me say, like how you say you have. Okay, let me give an example of a law firm. A law firm has clients, and for law firms, they have structured laws. So their laws are not going to change unless maybe there's a constitution or something. So the laws are constant. So they're going to create a database and they're going to put those files there. So that is our knowledge base. Then we are going to connect our AI to this database, and how it's going to process the documents in that database. It's going to break it down into characters. So these characters are later going to be processed into embeddings that the AI is going to use for reasoning out to answer the user. But this is really quick, like how you talk into ChatGPT and it responds to you very sharp. It has all this in its back end, but the processing power of it's so fast. So you can't even realize that it goes through all those steps to be able to bring for you that information. Then Superbase is also a free database storage. So here, let me say how your model has image processing. Well, for image processing, you might need more than 1K images. So you can use things like Cargo. Okay. So thank you. So you can use something like Cargo. There is Cargo. You can also use Google Colab to train out your models. Yes. So for Cargo, you can store there your images. Then you just call out the database. So Cargo you can relate it to Hugging Face, though Cargo databases are a bit not favorable. Why do I say that? It's because anyone can put their database, anyone can put their dataset. Even you yourself, you can create a dataset of maybe 500 files or images and you put it there and it's not verified. So cargo datasets are not really, you have to read through a lot to understand, is this the data set that I want? Who published it? Is it for an organization? Is it just for an individual? And if you're using for an individual, you have to scan through to know if it has it specifically what you need. Yes. So what this demo is going to do, it's going to upload ingredients. Now, like let me say its use case. I'm a user and I have ingredients, but I don't know what meal I want to cook. So you take a picture of those ingredients. This is This is a picture I have for this demo. So you take a picture of those ingredients, send it to this AI, and then it scans through those ingredients. It gives you a recipe for you to create, for you to be able to cook that food with those ingredients that you have. And another use case it is a recipe searcher. So when you want to cook maybe a meal, you've had a fancy meal somewhere, but you don't know how to cook it, you're going to ask it, okay, I've heard about maybe steak. How can I cook steak in our normal meat in Uganda? I mean, the normal meat that you buy from the market. Yes. Then it will give you a recipe of how to prepare it. Or maybe you want to make meatballs and something, it will give you a recipe for it. Yes. So, I'm going to use something called Curo, still sticking to the AWS infrastructure. So Curo is an IDE for code. It's an agentic IDE. What do I mean by agentic IDE? It generates code for you. So like how other speakers have shared, planning for your project and project ideation, all that. After you've finished ideating for your project, you can structure a master prompt that is going to be able to structure your project without you even doing anything. Then later you go back and test out that code to revise it, to see the loopholes in it, to be able to know if I do this, is this functional? You now go ahead and refine. So if you're a developer, this is the part, this is where your knowledge comes in. You have to go and revise the code and get to know, is this updated? Because most times the AI is backward, so it may use a framework dependency that is no longer even being supported, or it may use it may call on a tool that is an older version, and there are newer versions that could even perform better for you. So you have to also know that the kind of structure you want to work with. Don't choose Python if you don't know Python. Don't say you're going to do your project in GS, that is JavaScript, when you don't understand GS, because later you have to go and revise your code. We have not yet reached at a point whereby we can fully trust the code from AI. Fine, it can generate the code, but then you as a person, you have to go back and go through this code. You don't have to go through everything, but the essential things that cause priority. Let me say now, for authentication, if your users are going to log in, you have to go back and see how is it handling this authentication. Are the user IDs being protected? What kind of parameters have I set for my users? How many trials are they going to try out if they want to log in? So you have to think about all that after it has finished generating for you that code. So after it finishes generating the back end, you can connect it to Supabase and Hugging Face, then the deployment option. So most times when I'm prototyping for my projects, I use Render for the back end and then Vercel for the front end. So Vercel is a deployment, it's a deployment platform that mostly favors JavaScript products. So it's very good with front end. Let me say your project is in Vue framework or React framework or even Next.js framework or Node. You can just put it on Vercel, and then it will give you an automatic URL that you can use for your project. So why do I like Render? Why is Render more favorable, especially for AI prototypes back end? It's because Render works well with Python. The only bad thing with Render is that on free trial, it delays a bit to run. So if let me say you have authentication on your platform and your users have to log in, they're going to have to wait for some time for it to wake up, because it sleeps after some time of inactivity. So let me say you used it yesterday, then for another person to visit it the next morning, it's going to take time for it to wake up for a user to use it. Yes. So and there are some things that they don't give you. Let me say now you have storage. Maybe you're relying on it to give you a storage. That storage won't be persistent. What do I mean by persistent? Like, let me say if a user logs in, like how you log in on your Google and then it remembers the password, Render won't be able to help you with that unless you've paid for it. Then it will give you persistent storage for your users. So in these slides, I attached a prompt template that I used for my for my project. So what I did, I went to Gemini. I brainstormed. I talked about what I wanted to do for my project. I told this I want to do a recipe AI. This is how I want it to flow. This is the vision I have for it. So after that, it layered for me out the steps I can flow with, how I can architecture it. Then I went to, there's a link for a Curo. Let me just share it. A moment. Can you see my screen?
You can see the presentation.
Oh, okay. So let me first stop sharing that. Apologies. And then I share this. Share. So this is a Curo master prompt. It's structured. AWS offered it to people who are just trying out Curo and they want to see how it works. So after you making a plan for your project, you're going to now you can still give this to Gemini or ChatGPT, and then it can just put what you've discussed into this template, or you can edit this out yourself, which will take a long time. So just take the advantage of the AI. So after you brainstorming and understanding your project structure, you can use this prompt. You copy the prompt, paste it in ChatGPT or Gemini, and tell it, okay, this is the structured prompt I want to use for my IDE. Help me put in whatever we have discussed for the project. After you've done that, then you can go to Curo. And okay, let me just show you how Curo looks like. It looks like VS. Let me just show you for those that program. But even though you don't program, don't worry, because it's very easy to understand. Just that the aspect of us, the professionals, who actually know the code, because we can tell that this is either this is a stagnant dependency or not. But if you're just vibe coding, if you're just a vibe coder, you can just use it and peruse through. So let me share window. Okay, this is how it looks like. So I came here. I first started with an empty folder. Then I gave it a README file. So in this README file, this is the prompt. Now I've shown you the other side. It includes everything that I wanted to do for my project, the project structure that I wanted to go through, what I wanted to achieve for this project. After I did that, I came to this side and told it, I've drafted a prompt for you in the README file. Go through it, understand what I want to build for this project. After it did that, it created a .curo folder. So in this .curo folder, there is something called specs. So specs are documents that are going to explain your project. So here, it's first started by creating the requirements. So it's described the requirements that I'm going to use for my project. You can read through. Then if you don't like what it has written for you, you come here and say, I want to refine this. Before it proceeds to the other documents, I want to refine this. This is not the requirement I want. Then if you're also aware of other libraries, maybe it has put old version, you say, no, this is old actually, use this. This is where the importance of a software architecture comes in. Of a software architect comes in. You have to understand your project from the roots. So that the code generation is easy, but if you don't understand, even what you're generating won't make sense. So then it creates a design MD for you. This is a design document. So it structures for you how your application is going to look. This is a React front end. You have a generator, you have a search UI, you have an inventory manager to just manage the recipes you've generated. Then after that, it will show you how it's going to connect to the back end, what kind of services it's going to connect to. Then it will even give you code snippets of what it's going to do, like the variables it's going to use for this specific class, what it's going to do for the different things. So yes, just a run through. Then it's after it does that, it structures tasks. Like if you've not refined this and you've approved it, it continues to the next thing. So as you can see, I've been going through all the tasks. So it started with project initiation. So you can come here and read through the tasks that it's going to do. You say, create LLM service. No, you do this instead. Or maybe, because at first I was going to use Bedrock, But then after I realized that, okay, I'm going to show you Bedrock, but it won't make sense to you since you want to prototype and Bedrock is for paying. So I changed to Hugging Face instead and used Hugging Face. So I came here and said, okay, revise this. Please don't use Bedrock, use Hugging Face. Then when I came to the storage, it was using the AWS storage, which is Dynamo or Lambda. So when I saw that it's using that, I said, don't use that. Please use this. Use Superbase because Superbase is free and it's actually very accessible to any person. So when it came to embeddings, it was still going to use Dynamo. I said, no, please use PyCon vector search. It can do the embeddings. I changed that. So after changing all that, now I stopped here for the front end. So it keeps on completing the tasks one by one until you approve. Yeah. So when this is complete, you'll be able to see it on the repo that will be attached in the link. Yes, so that's how Curo looks like. It's just like VS. If you're using Copilot, that's just how it looks like. VS is Visual Studio. So most of them look the same. If you've been using Casa, you'll be able to understand it. Just the way it operates is different. Or maybe using anti-gravity for Google, you can also the interface is very understandable. Okay, so going back to the slide. All right. So now that I've shown you that, I was supposed to show you a demo that is not ready. Developer disaster, but yes, once it's done, you'll be able to, since I'm going to share the slides with you, you'll be able to see the live link and the GitHub repo. So this is just the ideation of the recipe API, that I wanted to build. So yes, with that said, I would like to welcome any questions on what I've shared.
Hi, Shakiran. I just have a comment. I don't really have a question. I really like this idea of like a software architect because the tools that we now have, especially in coding, and if you remember where we were, MS-DOS, or at least, at that time, you had to literally type. So what we have at our, fingertips now really requires you to take a bigger picture. And as you say, become an architect because you are influencing and you have the tools to influence different things around this entire solution or this entire project. So yeah, like I really like that you've illustrated that. And it also brings in, how you're able to kind of incorporate other disciplines because, for example, design thinking and, and such. So yeah, really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you very much, Susan. I see another question here. What was your main challenges you experienced and tips to navigate through? Challenges in what aspect in coding? Could you maybe elaborate on that in coding? Okay. So challenges I navigate. Well, one thing is for sure you have to keep up with the speed. That's one challenge I face because literally every week there is something new that you have to learn. There is maybe a new update to a framework. There is a new update to this new tool that you've been using. There is a new tool that everyone is hyping about. So keeping up is really, it's something that it's hard to do. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know that actually this something exists and this is what it does. So that is a challenge that I face. Then how to navigate through them. Okay, for my profession, there are so many things in it. You can be a technical writer, you can be a UI UX designer, you can be a back end engineer, you can be a software architect, like elaborated on. There are so many things within this field. So you have to the the part where you zone out and you say, okay, this is my niche. I'm going to focus on maybe on cybersecurity. This is the route I'm going to take, or I'm going to take cloud computing. You have to have at least navigated at least through half of the things, like explored enough to understand where your passion actually falls. So that's also another challenge I face. But that could also be a tip that don't if you're still a student like me, don't specialize right away right now. navigate through everything, try out everything, especially now, like participating through hackathons, you learn a lot of things. There is a website called DevPost. It has so many hackathons. So you can just say, this week I want to learn how to maybe to work on front end. Go and do a hackathon. It will teach you. You might not win, or you could win even, but you will learn something. Or maybe it's a cyber security hackathon. Don't shy away. Go in, try out stuff. Maybe it's embedded systems, the hardware. Don't get scared of the hardware. At the end of the day, you're writing software to operate on hardware products. So you have to understand also some hardware. Just try out enough things to discover your niche. Yeah, that will help you navigate through the challenges and enjoy what you're doing. If maybe the code fails, there is an error, give yourself a break. Don't die on it until you navigate back to it, then understand it better. So I think that's how I can answer that. I hope I've answered it well. Then how do you keep up with this technology with your with the usual campus program? So there are newsletters. There are very many people I follow on YouTube. They have newsletters. So it also helps you keep up if you maybe have a newsletter that you follow. I haven't listed down some of them, but yeah, there are some newsletters I follow. So every week they do send an update of what's happening, maybe in AI, what update is there. Then also YouTube is one way, newsletters is one way. Also Instagram, there are very many tech socialists that you can follow. They most times they talk about these things on their reels. Then there are platforms that you can follow. There is something called .dev. It's a dev community. Let me see if I can get the link here. Dev community. Yes, so Dev community has many people writing articles. You can just follow them up. You can just maybe create a profile and follow up people who see what article is trending, what are people talking about. There's also an old platform called Reddit. Reddit is still used, by the way. Apologies for calling it old. There's also Reddit. Reddit people post there a lot of articles. You can use it. What other one? There are so many. Medium, but Medium, everyone posts there. But these ones are specifically for us, the developers, so you can use them. Also on LinkedIn, you can follow up people who post tech content. There is always an update on something, especially for these hackathons. If you know that a specific person over participates in hackathons, you can follow them up. The hackathon platform I said was DevPost. Let me also put that in the chat. So DevPost also has a lot of goodies, a lot of hackathons that you can do. Also normalize, if you're a developer, normalize yourself with the platform called Discord. So Discord is a server. Okay, it operates like it has, if you have a community on there, it's like a server where you have all these links and people can go to different channels. So for Discord, there are very many communities that are on. You can join the next GS community. You join maybe Cello for people who do Web3. You join a lovable community. So many channels that you can join, and most times even before they post something on their websites, it's first in the Discord. They first give it to their community so that their community benefits first. So if you keep up with these technologies, it's easier for you to find even opportunities. You can even find jobs within there. Let me say there is a technical issue and someone is asking for help in that community, then you comment. Someone can support you and say, okay, this person actually understands this. Maybe I can work with them on a project like this. Same thing for hackathons. For DevPost, it's a global platform. So if maybe you're joining a global hackathon, even a local one, you can get a teammate from that platform. And then from that teammate, you can actually build something great and end up making friends that are going to build you in your career and even will join you to job opportunities that can either be global or local. So I guess that's it for that. Then how do you balance leveraging AI tools and understanding what you build? First, building makes it difficult to learn on the process. Also, what's your favorite AI? Okay. So AI is not going away. So and first building, now the clients know that it's possible for you to vibe code and come up with products really fast. The demand is going to be high, like the pressure is not going to decrease. But if you're a person who keeps up with reading, first love reading the documents, the documentation, just understand. Like if the AI gives you something, maybe it gives you something new you've never seen, go to the documentation of that something it has given you and understand it. Okay, maybe you don't have to understand it, but get a basic understanding of it. This is how it works. This is what it does. So that next time if you see it, you don't just accept it like that. Understanding what you build, choose what you understand. Like I said, if you've never interacted with JavaScript, don't go and say, okay, now build my project in React. If you've never interacted with Java, don't say I want to use Java for my backend if you don't know Java. Because at the end of the day, you're going to build what you don't understand. You can't read the code and understand it if you don't know its syntax. So yes, there's sometimes where you're going to choose a project and it will not work well in GS, but it will work well in maybe, let me say, Python or Go. That means you have to go and maybe understand that language. Understanding a language can take you like 2 weeks, 1 week, depends on on you, the person. You can use www.schools to go through basic tutorials for that language and just get an understanding of it. Sometimes you don't have to go in depth, you just have to have a basic understanding of something. Yeah. But overall, if you're not a technical person, you have to have someone who will understand what you're going to build. At the end of the day, you have to understand what you're building. So what's my favorite AI? Gemini. The recent Gemini that you have upgraded, it has so much in it, but you can never know if you don't read about it. So I like Gemini. Yeah. Any other questions?
What about Claude? I heard Claude is like the best right now in terms of like just like, you know, either or just like how do you what would be your contrast between like Gemini and Cloud? Like Claude, how would you like rate?
Okay, for Claude, it's good with code. Like if you have an error, or if you have an error and you want to maybe work on the back end, it's very good with code. For Gemini, it's very good with UI. So Claude comes in when you want the back end of things, the security, the frameworks, and the endpoints in the back end. But when it comes to Gemini, because Claude is not very good with UI, if most of you have realized, Gemini is very good with UI. If you have a master prompt and you want to come up with something, it's going to structure your thing very well. There is something called Spleen. It's a 3D provide okay. It provides 3D components. People design their 3D components. So if maybe you just give it a link to that specific component you want, now I'm giving an example of Gemini, it will structure it well, given your prompt is very good. So if I'm writing, I would say for Claude, use it for your back end. Front end, use Gemini. Yeah, Google is very good with UI and UX, so their AI is good with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Shakiran. So yeah, Google has a tool called Stitch, and it is so good with UI UX. Thank you, Shakiran. This was a great session. I believe we've all learned from it. You've made people interact well. Some people who had not yet interacted, at least. Thank you for sharing, and I believe you are a motivation to most of the participants. So let's move on to the next speaker. Give me a minute. for the next speaker, the previous speaker was technical, and then the next speaker is also technical. So the next speaker is Lwanga. He is an AI research engineer. I hope you hear me. Okay. He's an AI research engineer at Crane AI Labs. Him and his team worked on the first ever African culture context benchmark for LLM. So just think about this way. He is trying to make sure, he is making sure that AI understands us. For example, like AI is like OpenAI can understand our context, can understand the Ugandan context. He has also built some data pipelines for the Luganda and Swahili module in collaboration with Google DeepMind and Cohere. So Caleb, we would love to learn a lot from you. So you're welcome.
Okay, hi everyone. I don't know if you can confirm that you can see and hear me. Can you hear me? Are we good? Great. Yeah. So as I've been introduced, my name is Caleb Lwanga. I'm an AI research engineer based in Kampala, Uganda, and I'm really happy and excited to have this opportunity to share today. So let me just get my slides. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I had some issues. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see my screen.
You can see your screen.
All right, good. So the focus that I want to talk about today is building practical solutions and things that actually work, especially given the conditions that we have here in Africa, which are quite different from what you'd expect. So like I wanted to focus more on that. I would like to appreciate those that have spoken before me. I would like to thank the previous speaker for doing like a really technical deep dive, as well as the ones that came before who shared like on ethics and user experience, because those are things I'm also going to touch on a bit. But the thing I wanted to talk about and focus really on is about understanding the problem, right? Because it's 2026, anyone can build anything. We have all these amazing tools. Every single week, they're dropping new models. There's new ways to build things, and it's like Shakiran shared, it's very difficult to keep up, right? Because today the Claude Code is the best, then tomorrow it's Codex, then tomorrow it's back to Gemini. But one thing that remains constant is that we have these problems, and building a solution starts with understanding what the friction point is, like the understanding the pain points and really zeroing down on them with your solution. So I'm going to give like a small anecdote. So about 2.5 years ago, I got my first job at a startup. I was working as an AI engineer. So I meet the CEO, and he just tells me, we need AI in the app. So for context, the app is like think of Airbnb, but locally. So let's say you want to find a place to stay. You go to the app, you find a place to stay, you book it, they connect with the host, they process the payment, and then you go and stay there. So I go on my first day, and he's like, we need AI in the app. So I asked myself, what should I build? There's so many things that I could build, but what exactly should I build? So I did I did what I believe some people might have also done here. So I just got like a document about the application, and I threw it into ChatGPT, and I said, give me some ideas to build for like an AI feature. So after going through that, I got the idea to build a recommendation system, right? So let's say you looked at this house, and let's say you clicked on it, then my system would tell, oh, you like apartments that are modern, so we'll show you more modern apartments. So I remember I spent about 4 months building out this solution, and then when we finally rolled it out, absolutely no one was using it. Like it was it was a disaster because no one was using it. It was just dead code in the application. So after that experience, I took some time to really think what is the actual friction point in the application. So one thing that we discovered later on was the fact that people were finding it hard to find a place to stay in the app because there were so many options. You know, you open the app and it throws like 50 listings in your face, right? So you don't know exactly where to go. You have to click through so many listings and you have to read through. And at the time, the search wasn't great. So if you searched, let's say, it was only like location based, so you could search like Kampala, then you just throw Kampala apartments in your face, like 100 of them, and you don't even know where to start, and you have to read through. So we spent a couple of months trying to, but not months really. It was like I think it was like a month or so, trying to really break down the problem and understand it to build a good solution. And interestingly, after that month, we built TAI. So TAI stands for Tubayo AI. So it's like a conversational agent that helps people book on the platform. Let me share a quick demonstration of how it works. Just a second. Just give me a second. Let me get the So I don't know if you can see my screen. I don't know if you can see the video. Could you please confirm?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so we built this. So what it is essentially is, like I said, the issue was there were so many options and like people don't know what to do. You'd have to go through so many listings trying to find the right one for you. So we built this platform where you can plan an entire trip. So you could be like, I have a family that wants to go to Ginger. Let me just skip through. So like you just give it your prompt, you give it your budget, and then like it would go ahead and search for the experiences that might be nice, that you might enjoy, and it shows you like a couple of homes, and then you can directly go ahead and book. So another thing that I'd like to touch on is like the user experience. So the way we put this together, we wanted it to feel not like ChatGPT, because at the time you couldn't even like see images in ChatGPT, because this is about 2023 when you put this together. So we wanted to have like a really unique user experience, and we wanted it to be capable. So we wanted someone to be able to go through the whole flow without leaving the application window. So you could find something that you like. Let me just skip to it. Then you'd be like, okay, I'd like to book this. What's next? And it would render this like form inside the chat window itself, right? So you can put in your phone name, then you put in your email address, then you put in your contact, and all this is happening in the chat window. So like user experience was also something that we really looked at. But my point being, we had to take some time to really understand the problem. Like initially, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was just trying to find a way, just like how someone might be just looking for an idea that wins the hackathon. So you just get some ChatGPT ideas, like in agriculture, without having, should I say, spend time to understand the problem. So that's like the first takeaway I would like to share. I know it may not be easy sometimes, but maybe if you have access to someone who has experienced that pain, that would make your solution a whole lot better. For example, even startup accelerators like Y Combinator, they won't take up your idea if it's not a problem that you face yourself. So I can't just wake up one day and I try to pitch an app or a service that is out of touch for me. So if you can find someone, maybe one of the previous speakers talked about defining a persona. Maybe you could actually go out and look for someone and partner with them and tell them, hey, you have all this context. I have the technical skills to put this application together. But at the end of the day, I'm not a farmer. I'm a software engineer. So I'd appreciate if we could team up and find a solution for that. So let me just head back to my presentation. Yeah, so once we released TIE, we saw the booking times get cut almost in half, right? So people were no longer fidgeting all around the place trying to use the application. And this was even before we had like AI agents as a thing. They were it was not so mainstream. And I was really glad with the way we were able to put this together. So that's the first takeaway I'd like to share. So I came up with this checklist that can help you understand the problem, right? So the first question you'd want to ask yourself is, can you explain the problem without mentioning AI? So the challenge I see mostly is people try to do it backwards. Like, this is an AI hackathon. So let me choose a model, let me choose the technology, then I'm going to backtrack and get the problem. But that's the wrong way to do it, really. You have to start with the problem and then you see, is this even a good fit for AI? So for my use case, I'm just going to run through this for what I've just shared. So can I explain the problem without AI? Yes, people enter the app and they have absolutely no idea what to do. They're flooded with listings and they're confused, and they have to read through each and every description and try and understand. Yet you can just hand that off somewhere, and then then the AI is able to query that information and present it to the user. So who feels this pain today, and how are they dealing with it? So at the time, what was happening was, first of all, it was a startup, so we were very few employees. We were about 10, and because there was no way of finding what people wanted in the app easily, they'd end up calling the team, right? So remember, we're already 10, we are few, but every single day we need to take a couple of customer service calls, helping someone find the place they're trying to look for. And we ended up doing the job that Tai is doing right now, because someone will call you, they're like, I'm going to Ginger for 2 weeks, I need a place to stay. So a developer who's supposed to be engineering stuff, coming up with solutions, I'm now fidgeting within the application, also going through the same pain, trying to find the place for the client, and that's cutting down on my engineering time, and the app is being redundant. And yeah, that was how the pain was being manifested and the user. Then the third question, what does solve look like in simple terms? For me, it was someone booking within a minute or so without having to interface with anyone. And then this is a very, very tricky question. Is AI the best tool for this solution? So the fact is, not every problem needs a model. And sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes a spreadsheet would get the job done better. And maybe that's a signal that you should pivot or try something new. The good thing with the tools that we have today, you can spin up an app within a day or two. So pivoting is, the cost of development and pivoting is really, really easy. And then 5, can you build a version for 10 users this week? So you have to keep it really, really simple. And as we have seen, the people who have shared before me, the developing is not really a bottleneck anymore. If you have decent understanding or basic understanding of React, you can spin up a React app in 30 minutes and get it running. Or if you understand the architecture of how a vector database works, how retrieval augmented generation works, you could spin up something really, really quickly. So if you can answer these 5 questions confidently, then you have a good understanding of the problem, and you're already, your chances of success are already looking really, really good. But if you're not sure about some places, maybe it would be good to, like I said, find someone who has the context that you lack. Because you are a developer, you're not a farmer, or you're not in some of the industries that the hackathon is targeting. You're just a developer, you're just a student, but you can go out and find someone who faces those problems. Maybe you can bring them on the team, maybe not. Maybe you can just have a one-on-one conversation with them, and you get that context that you don't have. So yeah, I guess I'll share the slides later so that you can run through these. So yeah, now the second thing I want to talk about is building for context, right? So as Susan shared before, like these systems don't see us. Most of this technology comes from the West, like the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Geminis. One interesting thing is, I'm from Kampala. A Rolex is a snack, but you type Rolex inside ChatGPT and you think it's a watch or something like that. So sometimes solutions don't fail because they are bad, or the problem is you don't understand the problem. But sometimes it just doesn't understand the context that we have. And I'll give an example of that. So someone shared about building an app for, let's say, farmers, right? So maybe you want to have an app that recommends, oh, you should plant this is the rainy season. So yeah, that is a very good problem to solve, but you'd have to have specific context to solve that properly. Now, for example, in my home country, Uganda, there's about 40 million smartphones. Sorry, 40 million cellular devices. That means your smartphones, then like your button phones, and yeah, all the phones that we have. There's about 40 million, but only 10 million are connected to the internet, right? And of those 10 million, I'm sure a very small percentage of those are going to be the farmers that are going to be using your solution. So now you have to think, how can I serve it? Maybe I can try USSD. Maybe I can try SMS or something like that to serve the requests. Then also you have to look at things like the resources that you have. What if your solution requires like a massive GPU cluster to run? But unfortunately, we don't have those yet. So maybe you can look at maybe using smaller models, maybe quantizing the models and things like that. And that one story I can share about is UCCB. So essentially what it is, it's a benchmark. A benchmark is like a test to see how good models are. So I'm from Uganda, so it was evaluating models, like how good are they at understanding cultural context. Because something can be like offensive in our culture, but then the model will just throw it around like it's a normal word or a normal thing. And the impact of building local solutions just doesn't, like, it scales globally, right? Because the benchmark that we worked on was eventually merged into the UK government's AI safety framework. So let's say someone else from around the world is trying to evaluate their model for safety. They can also try and see, is this model, like, is it also good at Ugandan related safety stuff? Is it going to say something offensive in maybe something like Luganda? So yeah, building local context is not just about having something that works here, but it's also like it can impact and grow far, far bigger than you could ever imagine. So that's the second take I wanted to share. And then last but not least, you have to ship it. There's really no excuse these days, because we have some of the best tools are out there. Every single week a new model is dropping. Because personally, I use Twitter a lot to stay updated with what's happening. And there's a lot of releases every single day. Just this week we got 3.1 Gemini, we got Sonnet 4.6. So there's so many models to use. For my personal experience, Claude Code is really what I use the most. It's the one that I have the most experience with, and it's the one that really gives me the best results. I'll also use Gemini 3.1 for some UI tasks, but like for the serious heavy lifting, I always just default to Claude Code. But if it's a bit expensive, there's always like other alternatives. We have the Chinese guys are also releasing some really good models that are very, very cheap. There's like Minimax 2.5, if you've heard of it. So you can really try those. And like there's so many ways to approach development. And it's interesting because there's like so many different approaches that people have. Some people have the spec-driven development that I think the previous speaker shared, where you have like a document and then you have like tasks, then you like, it ticks off the tasks. Oh, I've built this, I've built this, I've built this. Then there's people who use like sub-agents, so they can fire up multiple sub-agents. One is doing the front end, one is doing the back end, one is doing the different aspects of your application. So I've seen very, very many people's setups, but I think finding the one that works for you, you just have to build a lot of stuff with it, because something may work for someone and it doesn't work as well for you. But the key takeaway is, like, developing something has never been easier than it is right now. Like, if you seriously sit down for the next I don't know, 2-3 days, you can have like a prototype working perfectly and beautifully. So once again, we're at a point where you can build so much so quickly. So now knowing what to build and having the wisdom and discernment, this is exactly what I should build, I think it even becomes more important because someone can replicate your app in like a matter of days, right? You can build out your beautiful architecture, build out your beautiful app, and someone like rips it off and does it in a week or so. But one thing they can't steal from you is that context that you have. Let's say you've worked directly with someone who is a farmer and you've built the solution together. That's context that is very hard to replicate and to take away from you. So yeah, just a small, I don't know, tidbit from the handbook that I took some time to look at. Just make sure your presentation is good, and just have a simple working demo before you add more and more layers of complexity, and really focus on the why and understand the problem. And yeah, that's all I had to share. I am open to questions, and if you'd want to reach out to me for anything, maybe you want to chat or collaborate on something, that's my email address. But just a recap, start with a problem, start with a pain, build for context, and ship.
Thank you. Presentation. Sorry, Kevin. I was just going to say thank you so much for that presentation, Caleb. I really appreciate you bringing out reflecting on whether we should use AI, because I think that's a really big problem. Is now AI has been sold as, the cure-all for everything, but we really need to see whether, we're creating solutions for the problem or we're just kind of just, in this, I don't know, frenzy
Yeah.
of thinking we'll do everything. Yeah, so really good presentation. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I will be reaching out.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let me address some of the questions. So AI applications are expensive due to user tokens consumed. How do you navigate this? So yeah, in Africa, like first of all, we don't have any serious compute, unfortunately. So most of the GPUs that we're using people's GPUs. But one thing I can share is if you have like a task, you can always look at getting a smaller model. So the models have different sizes, right? You could have, let's say, Llama 3.1, 405 billion parameter model. So like that model has 405 billion parameters, right? So it's very large, right? And you need like a ton of resources to run it, and it's going to be expensive. But you can test like smaller models. Now there's like a Llama 7B, right? That's significantly smaller. So if you can test that model on your task, I'm a huge fan of benchmarking. So you can have like a small benchmark, let's say for your solution, right? Then you test like different models. So you start with the very big ones, then you move down and down until you find a model that's small enough. Not like 7 billion parameters is fairly cheap. It's much cheaper than running a very large model. So if you can just gravitate towards the smaller models, you'll be able to cut down that cost significantly. That's what I can share on that. So a question to me, between AI and Asia, where do you see the future of Africa, especially in terms of adoption? So Africa is still lagging quite a bit because, like I said, we don't have compute, which is like a big problem. Our data is also a mess. The languages we have like 1,000 languages across the continent, thousands of languages across the continent. So just even navigating a data situation is a nightmare. So I think we might be late to the AGI party, but in terms of AI and gaining real value and adoption, I think that's definitely possible, especially since we have smaller models these days. So like even all these big research labs they release like a very large and powerful model for like, let's say, for people who can afford to run it, then they release like the smaller ones. So if we can gravitate towards the smaller ones and get them to work on our use cases, because I'm sure you can get like a 7 billion parameter model to get good at I don't know, recommending what crops to grow. That's like a fairly simple task. So I think from an adoption standpoint, it's definitely going to be the small language models first as we ramp up in infrastructure until we are at the point where we can now have like these really massive data centers that can accommodate the bigger ones. So I think it's going to be slow, but if we can all do our part and keep pushing and keep innovating now with initiatives like this, we can definitely get there. So can we get the doc presentation? Yeah, sure. I'll share it. How do you figure out the business model for your product? Yeah, so with AI, it's a bit tricky because the issue is there's like the thing with let's say if you build like an app that doesn't have AI, the marginal cost for each user is really small. So like let's say you add 10 users, you're not going to really add so much cost, right? It only gets messy when you have like hundreds of thousands of users. So the marginal cost is not so bad. But with each user you have for an AI product, you're going to be like there's going to be an increase in like the token spend that you have. So you have to really think through, you have to really be creative and think through how you're going to navigate the pricing of your product. Because one thing I can tell you, even these big labs that we all know and love now, like OpenAI, interestingly, like they're also unprofitable, and yet they're the best in the world at this stuff. Yeah, so it's a bit tricky. But like I said before, if you gravitate towards smaller models, smaller specialized models, you'll be able to cut down that cost significantly. Let me see. What is the strategy for obtaining test users and lessons from experience? Okay, for my startup experience, the good thing was that by the time I joined the startup, there were already about 5,000 users who had downloaded the app. So that wasn't really a challenge. We just rolled it out and were able to get initial feedback quickly. So that wasn't really a challenge. But for obtaining test users, like I said, if you're working with someone who is in the industry, I feel like that should be fairly simple because they know where those people are. So if you're building an agricultural solution and you're partnering with a farmer, I'm sure like he knows where the farmers are. Like you're not going to have to hunt or look for them. They can always just point in the right direction because they know where those people commune and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any more questions.
I think the questions are done. Thank you so much, Caleb. Thank you. We've really learned a lot from your presentation, and it's all connected with all what the previous speakers have been talking about. So we really apologize. The time is the session is supposed to end in 4 minutes. So I'm going to just rush you through the prizes. So Mjanga is giving $420 to the first group, the first winner, and then $280 to the second, and $140 to the third. So Featherless, our partners, they are giving you first. Okay. So Featherless, Featherless AI is going to give you an interface where you can run your models from and access different models. So for all the participants, you're going to get you're going to get 1 month free access to, I think, you're going to get 1 month access, and then for the winners, the first winner is going to get credits worth $300, and then the second one $150, and then the third one will get, excuse me, the third one will get $75. So for Midu is a platform used for you can easily generate your application or website with Midu. You just tell it what you want You just tell it what you want in your application. You just describe your application briefly, and then it will show you. It will first give you something like a documentation to the application, to what you've described. In case you confirm that, it goes on and creates for you. It creates for you the application. So Midu is giving all participants 300 credits. And then for the winners, the first 3 winning groups are going to get a 1-month pro membership to Midu. So what you're going to do, since we are not having time to present you how you can access all these for the participants, I'm going to share with you the document from Featherless, like the step-to-step guideline on how to access the membership that's going to give you, and the same to Midu. I'm going to just document it well so that you can easily understand it and then send it to you by the end of tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, so that's all from from what you are going to get from this hackathon. So for the way you're going to be, for you to win the hackathon, you'd have to have the highest mark is 100%, and there are also bonus points which are coming from diversity and ethical AI. So in case whatever you're building is ethical and your team is diverse, you have a chance to win to get the 10 points. And then we have the impact and problem fit. So all this will be seen from the presentation that you'll be submitting. You'll be submitting a 3-minute presentation explaining to us what problem you're solving and giving us a short demo of your problem, of your project, sorry. And then the technical execution, how you've executed it. By the way, the other thing that I forgot with Midu, you might be scared that they're just going to generate for you your app or website. They also give you access to your source code. So you can easily just go there and edit whatever is not done well. You do not expect the AI to do, like you do not expect the perfect result from the AI. And then from presentation and storytelling, you're going to be, the highest mark is 25%, and then user experience and design, it's 20%. So all this will be graded by the judges that will be telling you in the coming weeks, soon before you start your submissions. So that's all from us. In case you have any other question about the hackathon, you can go on and ask. And we'll be sharing the presentations that the speakers have been showing, all the short notes from, okay, the dates, let me take you back in the presentation so that you can see the dates. I think I missed that part. Okay. So for the dates, the workshop, the workshop starts today, it's ending today, and then we expect you to start working on your projects. We expect that you've already started working on your projects, and the submissions will run from 9th March to 13th March. So between 13th and 21st, the judges will be going through your projects, and the best 6 projects groups will present their projects on the grand finale. So from the grand finale, we'll award the best 3 teams after the pitching. Yeah. Yeah, it is all virtual. This whole hackathon is virtual. We do not have, nothing will be physical. I think that's all. The workshop is done, so you can leave, or in case you have any other question, you can just stay and ask whatever you want to ask. And let's use the WhatsApp group. In case you do not have a team, you can just inbox. You can just tell the guys in the group. You can just send a message in the group and say that you do not have a group. And then whoever doesn't have a group will inbox you, or they'll inbox you so that you can form a group, because we are not allowing projects. We are not allowing personal projects. Okay, I'm going to end the call. Hope you no longer have questions. Thank you so much for joining the speakers. We really appreciate we've really learned a lot from you, and I believe the participants now know what we require of them, what we require of the projects from what you have told us. And about that time, we chose this time because it favors mostly everyone in Africa. For example, there are people in North Africa. So we are really sorry for holding you for long. Yeah. Welcome, Susan. Okay, have a nice time.